Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to another live stream. Today is Friday, July 2nd, and we're back to Shadowverse. So, we have this new experience happening where I imagine I'll have to play a private game, and we have a whole bunch of daily games that you want to play. They are trying their best to hype up playing Shadowverse and make you want to play as much as possible during the new expansion. I did look at some of the card changes, and it seems like they kind of merged some cards and got rid of some cards. They definitely did not make that obvious at all. So there's some weirdness there, to say the least. And it feels like this may very well be the first time that they've ever done anything like that. See, and I was able to just get like one daily mission done yesterday. I did actually try to play, but honestly, hours and hours of effort, no reward. Seems to be the status quo for Shadowverse and me. So that kind of sucks. I was also, and this will just be the entirety of the accountability section, moving my old server computer to, we have like 8 packs. That's a lot, but we might as well open them now. I was moving my old computer to my new server case, which it does have a nice change of pace in that it's not using what I think are called SAS connectors, which are these weird server connectors that nobody on a prosumer or a consumer line would ever have, and it moved to just using standard SATA connectors on the backplane, which means I won't have to buy slightly more expensive wires, but I still want to get some streamlined wires because airflow and wire management is a concern, even though the computer case is huge. Also made an effort this time compared to the last time to make sure I'm pulling the wires through the bottom wire channels that have rounded edges instead of through the edge that has some cutouts, which are probably just for airflow, that are not rounded edges and just sharp edges. Not that there was ever really a problem where a wire shielding got stripped or anything like that. It's just abundance of caution. It certainly is difficult to be certain that I plugged in the backplane's power connectors correctly and well enough, but I'm hoping everything will work. I need to just plug the whole thing in and test that, and I will do that as soon as I'm done routing all the cables, which server-wise, I definitely need to work on the server, but I'm also probably not going to get around to it too fast. They have just announced ZFS version 2.1, which introduces the distributed raid concept, which would, for me, mean building a new raid array, which it probably will take weeks, if not months, until that gets backported to the current version of Debian. So there's definitely some time there to work on that. Distributed raid seems to be the next step forward as far as raid arrays. Yeah, I'm not going to even bother to look here and see what new cards we got. We could, though, check just this and just run a comparison to see how many cards are left to even try and collect. Like, it certainly would explain. Like, they're trying to introduce kind of like leader cards as a concept, is what they're calling him. And this card, I think, existed in the past, and they've just, or the art existed, and they've changed what it does or its name slightly and gotten rid of some of the other cards. I bet they've merged some cards too. These would be commander cards effectively in Magic the Gathering, although they're not being treated special like commander cards. But it does seem like that is the direction they are going. Yeah, I'm not really missing that many cards. I did do the main story. From skipping the story, it still doesn't feel like it got back to Fate's Trigger conclusion, so it feels like either they really did kill that character off, or and Entropy's Abyss has nothing to do with any of the characters from the main storyline, or whatever chapter 14 is going to bring everybody back together and connect the stories. See, these treasure chests happen, so that you want to get like 5 or 10 ranked wins every day to get these treasure chests, and they're just, again, it's fairly impossible to win. So I definitely didn't get that done. I definitely did not get that done in time. There is definitely this also issue where it is such a bad matchmaking system that you have to go to the Discord to find a private match number. I don't know why in the world they even would promote private matches like this. It's like, really what they're making the argument is that they're not wrong for not implementing a private match system, or by emphasizing a private matches by giving away rewards. It's the players that are wrong because they don't have an infinite collection of friends who are always playing Shadowverse, who are ready and willing to play a private match at the drop of a hat. And it's just like so bad to try and type in all of this stuff. Either it's glitchy, or there are just that many people trying to hop in, and it's coming down to whose internet speed and typing ability is faster than everyone else. I mean, this really just makes a I got on this person and they want to win, so whatever. We can pass, and I think that is fine. Because letting this person win because they want to win is fine, because I think the reward is for playing a game anyways. That's not particularly enthralling video content by any means, but whatever.
The eternal procession beckons.
So, yeah. Haven't really been doing a lot. It's been like 4 or 5 days now, and I haven't gotten back to Hellblade Soon Sacrifice, and I really cannot just flake on this game. And I'm gonna be upset with myself if I do, because I kind of paid an extra premium. Honestly, I'm not sure that the audio isn't actually playing from Hellblades right now too. Yep, it was playing, so that means it was playing throughout the entirety of the stream. Wednesday too, and I just didn't even notice it. So yeah, I really will be upset with myself if I flake on the game. But I can't really blame myself completely, because the truth of the matter is that
May the forest be at
they did not make a very good gameplay mechanic that they've introduced me to yet, as far as Hellblade. So yeah, if you don't like the combo fighting mechanic, that's pretty bad. Or if you don't like the storyline concept, or if you don't like the story being presented, or if you don't like the matching of images, then Hellblade is not really offering anything. Have to remind myself that I'm trying to lose.
Nice marksmanship.
Yep, you only had to play, so I don't know why that person thought they needed to win, but whatever. We can oblige them. I don't even think that I'm, let's see, anywhere as far as like private matches. Let's see. Win 5 take 2 matches to get a classic card pack. Win all 5 take 2 matches 3 times. Win 20 open 6 matches. Win all 5 open 6 matches 3 times. Yeah. Let's see. I think all the private matches that I could have done, I have done, as far as rewards, and all the single player things have been cleared off. Well, 20 players in private matches without quitting was the reward here to get gold. So even then, at least now, maybe they changed the rules on that. You don't even have to win. And I guess our rank, we're looking for B0 rank if we were going to try and get up higher in rank. And then leveling up characters is really just a matter of time. 200 ranked matches. I have like 56 ranked matches with Swordcraft, but I'm also at the 3rd tier, so that probably means I've already done 100 plus 50 plus 25, so I probably already had 175 victories if I was just to immediately guess. So Forestcraft or Swordcraft was what I was playing yesterday, trying to get this, and Forestcraft and Swordcraft is what I'm going to play today, and then probably by the end of this stream we will have one more daily quest that I'll have to try and deal with over the weekend. Is there anything else to talk about or deal with? We're now registered for this day. We've registered all of these things. So yeah, you do want to play every day to get rewards if you can. But yeah, I don't want to spend money on the battle pass, and there's nothing else here of any interest. There were some practice menu options, so you could, for instance, try and go back and play one of these new Resonant decks, but that's only some of the characters. The rest of these are just eternal decks. And there was only one reward for playing one of the resonant decks. So it could have been through the Dragoncraft or the Bloodcraft. And I think... Nope, that one hasn't been updated, I think, in 2 expansions. Yeah, Portalcraft. So these 3 characters you could have played for that reward. I played the Dragoncraft guy. I did go in here and adjust all of the decks. I deleted decks that were missing like 5 or more cards, because at that point, out of a 30 card deck, you're you're changing it so much that it's kind of ridiculous to try and adjust it without actually looking at the cards and trying it. Otherwise, I just took out old cards and put in cards from the new set at almost complete random. So none of these decks are particularly good. I'll be looking to replace these decks fairly quickly when we get some tournament winning decks from the next tournament, which probably will be a little bit longer than I'd like. What this highlights more than anything is, instead of them giving us a temporary ticket for one of 3 temporary decks, they needed to have told us what cards were in each of those 3 temporary decks so that we could actually just build them as a recipe and as a template. That was one thing that Hearthstone added fairly late into my experience playing them, was the idea that you could just copy other people's decks, and you could copy deck recipes just via copy and paste.
Let's speed things up.
And that definitely improved a lot of things. Certainly, because it's no longer having to specifically go to a third-party website to see what the current meta is, as far as playing Hearthstone, and it definitely opened up the door towards a more easier experience. Although at a certain point, Hearthstone started changing what it was so much, and this is kind of past the point where I was even really playing it, but they started changing so much of what it was that it really wasn't even much of a card collectible game, and it turned into an auto chess clone, which, yeah, that's different. That is definitely different.
Give him an inch. He's feeling hungry. No one gets past me.
You're mean.
So, yeah, since we started late today anyways, what we'll look to do
No, literally.
is kind of a kind of just burn through the news today and call it a shorter show. In general, if I could get every show to be a little bit shorter, that would be great. We can leave some games to talk about on Monday, because there's unlikely to be a lot of games that come out on Monday. Over the weekend, I need to start playing Hellblade: Seamless Sacrifice. It turned out I really didn't need to schedule videos as much as I thought I did. There's just so many episodes of the Pinball arcade series that it's going to run completely up against
He's feeling hungry.
it's going to run completely against the October month schedule, and then come back after that, which is
No one gets past me.
something that typically does not happen. But so yeah, but that works fairly well with Pinball Arcade anyways, because it's hardly like each of those individual episodes, which are looking at an individual pinball arcade pinball table. There's no long connecting thread. If there is, it's just a long connecting narrative of me looking at tables. So, yeah.
You rusty horseshoe.
Let's speed things up. Should have been quicker.
So now I'm just in the pattern of wanting to.
No one gets past me.
Let's go ahead and hit that. Is this evolved? Yes, it is.
Are you ready for true combat?
Say goodbye.
One step
I'm gonna try and protect this guy.
I'm over here, youngling.
Yeah. So this weekend, I could mostly go in with hope that I'll actually make some footage, because I really don't have a lot of excuse otherwise, which that hasn't really stopped me in the past. Although also I think this weekend is the 4th of July, so yeah, forget everything I just said. Come to think of it, I probably won't do anything this weekend. Let's just schedule absolute laziness and be more accurate there. I did decide to go back and look at some envisioncommunity.co.uk articles. There's still really not a great reason for it, but the classic LucasArts games are coming to Prime Gaming, which is The Secret of Monkey Island. I assume this is the special edition remastered version. Sam & Max Hit the Road, and Indiana Jones Fate of Atlantis. Which two of those are going to look fairly old, and the remastered Monkey Island looks fairly new. Interesting, also, each of those games really is the only one in a series. Hit the Road is the first Sam & Max game. Indiana Jones Fate of Atlantis is actually the second in the Indiana Jones point-and-click series that are worth mentioning. Secret of Monkey Island is the first of many Monkey Island games, at least 2 of which are people like.
Who will be my victim today? Are you worth your weight in gold?
Such a lovely couple.
Let's see. But yeah. Let's see. I'm considering videogameschronicles.com as a news source. They have an article here. The PSP store closes today, but it looks like games will still be available on the PS3 and Vita.
You are mine forever.
Why would the dead need a
The
living wage?
main problem I'm running into as far as Video Games Chronicles is that I had already even cleaned up those pages. I just didn't have the ad blocker on for some reason. The main problem I'd been running into with it is that its Twitter feed just kind of repeats the same thing over and over again, and that gets somewhat annoying. That you have message and then same message, then same message, then same message.
He's feeling hungry.
Okay.
This is our last push.
I'm ready for more. What do we have here?
David, I like. Give me that.
This guy is just wrecking me as far as my health. He's only got 2 cards, but I only have 1 card. Video Games Chronicle says Mario Kart Live has received a surprise update with new content. 3 new tracks and a new Yoshi kart have been added for free. Good, because honestly, it's a fairly expensive add-on to the Switch. Mario Kart Live takes a lot of space, unlike most video games, because it has a physical remote control car element to it. It's not really that multiplayer friendly. We'll try one more with Swordcraft and then we'll jump over to Fairycraft. I think in concept it's cool. I don't know if it has much lasting power, so certainly them adding more
There's a battle underway.
more to say, or more tracks and more skins definitely helps alleviate that problem of it being a very demanding of resources experience. Video Game Chronicles says Gears of War Studio The Coalition will show an Unreal Engine 5 demo this month, which, okay. They are working on Unreal Engine 5 now, which no big surprise there, because that would be the thing. It should be fairly forward compatible to convert something that you're working on Unreal Engine 4 to an Unreal Engine 5. Although I did listen to an interview where somebody was making a game using, I believe, Game Maker, a very old version or hacked version of Game Maker to make a Vita version of their game. So they were starting from the concept of a Vita compatible game that then they were going to try and upscale to other platforms, which really just sounds like the worst way to make a game. I would much prefer to make a game that could run on the newer platforms and then compromise for the lesser platforms, or potentially even convince people to abandon the lesser platforms for the newer platforms.
Who will be my victim today? Are you worth your weight in gold?
I just want to fill the emptiness.
No one gets past me. Today we fight. Too slow.
You're mean.
Let's see. Gamma Sutra has an article here. Take-Two has acquired the Red Dead Redemption 2 facial effects studios Dynamix XYZ. Dynami XYZ? I don't even know how you pronounce that. Which, okay. That I think Take-Two owns. Like Rockstar, and Rockstar made Red Dead Redemption, so it's hardly like somebody's bought the company that they were using. Game of Sutra is in a kind of opinion piece interview here, using audio to emphasize the positive power of no in Studio Fizbin's Say No More, which this game is one of those examples of games that is overhyped. There's really nobody talking about it, and yet we have a lot of advertising. I just figured out I've been using this card wrong completely, and I've been trying to wait till the 7th enhanced version when really I should just be playing it early, because playing it early you have a chance of doing something like that. Let's see. Kimetsu says Gus teases an announcement for July 7th, which that's not really news. Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword HD Quality of Life trailer is available, which
Looks like you've got another spirit.
I'm not going to play this. I'm probably not getting a Switch anytime soon, so I'm not even going to bother to care about it. Monster Hunter Stories 2 Wings of Ruin special pre-launch program has been announced, which this program seems to be really just an event. Monster Hunter 2 Wings of Ruin launch trailer, post-launch updates roadmap has been announced. That's a better way of saying that. These Monster Hunter characters are way more colorful than what I would have expected from the Monster Hunter users universe. Doom Eternal is updated. It's put out an update to add single player horde mode. More information. Well, the update is going to come out sometime in August. Or more information is due out sometime in August. So the update is going to come out at some point. Which that benefits me as someone who didn't particularly like absolutely wildly love the Doom reboot. It was fine, but its single player experience was kind of linear and not something I'd want to do twice in a row. So by taking that concept and taking Doom Eternal, the sequel, and expanding that to
We won't give him an inch.
Is that how you treat a lady?
let's see, can we evolve?
March on.
Yeah, making Doom Eternal more of
How you
a
treat a lady?
experience, or more of a polished experience, is something that
Spirit is willing, but the
I think I
flesh
would
is
appreciate more.
lukewarm.
Jeez, if I had known that card was just gonna do 5 damage to me and disappear, I wouldn't have played these two.
I'm leaving.
And every time you get a victory, you get one of these for the first 5 victories. I think is the way it breaks down. But what can be in the chest can be anything. I got. Suppose we should deal with that while we're here. I got over the course of opening card packs and opening one treasure chest yesterday, I got a new emblem, which I think probably highlights that we have probably 3 or 4 new emblems here, although seems like it's going to be fairly difficult to figure out where these new emblems even would be. Let's see. Not that these emblems really matter. Like that might have been an emblem I got new. And honestly, these could just be emblems that you get for having certain cards, or emblems you get for that would have been giveaways in previous expansions. Yeah, it's really silly to even hide the emblems behind giveaways when they should just be like free giveaways or way easier to achieve giveaways. There's just too many of them. This whole screen needs to be redone. Let's see if we could maybe in-game events. Yeah. Other events. There are no other event ones. Score rewards would be the only thing I could imagine. But I don't think I got any of those. Main story is just 5 pages. So it seems like the vast majority of these emblems are shop emblems that I know I didn't spend any real world money or gold to get these emblems, so they just came with cards that I collected. And flare wise, there's really not enough room for there to be that many new flares. If there's even one new flare, I'd be slightly surprised there. And I definitely didn't get a new character. I would have paid attention to that. Let's see. So, and the highest I've ever gotten was unlimited at C1. And the highest I've ever gotten on rank rotation is C0. So I assume, yeah, it would be quite the crawl to get from C0 up to C3, get above C3 to get to B0. At that point, does that lock you at a B0, or can you fall back down? I don't know if you can lose any points at all. It may very well just be a point system where it just goes up and up, at least until you hit the rank of master. Seems like at the rank of master, you then reset, and then you're playing against the real champions, which almost certainly will never get to that point. Let's see, I did get a chest, but apparently the daily just reset, because it says I can still get 5 today. Part of the problem though with playing fairies is it doesn't really win. Let's see. Game of Sutra has an article. MTG has acquired the Indian ward game developer Play Simple for an initial $360. Although the question here is MTG Magic the Gathering, or is it some other company just called MTG? I think it's a different company, because this logo here, MTG, does not look like Wizards of the Coast. It does not look like Magic the Gathering. It doesn't look like Hasbro in general. And that does bring about an interesting thought, certainly, that you probably cannot copyright or trademark just the letters MTG. I would suspect that HBO is also not trademarked either, but home box office maybe. Like, there should be a fairly hard limiter there as far as how many different letters are needed for uniqueness. And probably should be something around 5 or 6 letters, because like 26 to the power of 5, which I assume that's how you would do the math there, would be the possible number of combinations, assuming every combination is valid, which is not the case in language at all. But yeah, I would think 5, 6 letters for a word to even start to be a trademark should be a consideration.
All I need's an opening and you're toast.
It can't evolve in the next turn. Darn it. Then we'll just kill this here. Let's see. Game of Sutra says Facebook says there's over 1.5 million people in the US that are playing cloud gamings each month. Let's see, we're trying to skip games. There's a report that the narrative designers and writers have been laid off at the Love Island developer Fusebox. Love Island, the game, I think we vaguely vaguely had some news around this game, but I don't think it has gone really anywhere. It may still be in development. It may already be out. It wouldn't be completely unheard of for a game to be out of development or past the point in which it needs any narrative designers or writers, but typically you still would want to keep them employed and not just lay them off if you can, have them work on DLC or sequels. That's the one argument for DLC, is that it keeps the writers and the pure creatives employed while the programmers and the debuggers are working. But I would also assume that Love Island would have been more of a free-to-play style game that was going to constantly get new content, like the game I still am stupidly playing on my cell phone, College Days, because College Days, although it did have a long slump in which no new content was added, partially probably through my own fault of cheating to catch up on the game, they have been fairly good at this point about adding new content. There was bigger art on this cat when it first was summoned, because it was showing its tail and its butt behind, and then it framed that differently. Interesting. I guess that's been the case with all the cards, so you can't see the full art even when the game card is played.
My domain reaches to the end of the skies.
Let's see.
The hunt has only begun.
Don't trifle with an expert hunter. I'll strike true.
So I guess we have to do this. And I guess we have to do this. And I guess we do this. And then we play this. I still wouldn't recommend playing College Days though, so I do want to make that clear. But they have done better with the game, although they kind of stopped expanding the land mass, and as a clone of something like Simpsons Tacked Out, it is considerably fewer amount of content, which Simpsons Tapped Out is just a crazy amount of content, but also I would say less interesting content too.
Return to the earth. The uncharted desert awaits. What do we have here?
Video Game Chronicles says the quality of life improvements include autosaves and dialogue skips. So I had not really read the article, but I guess it's optional help from Fi, enhanced frame rate, fast forward dialogue, streamlined item information, skippable cutscenes, autosaves, skippable tutorial dialogues. The thing I think what this establishes more than anything, which is interesting, is this is the probably first pass of Nintendo really thinking about remastering a game and improving things versus remastering a game just so it plays on the new platform. I don't know if that's a real fair argument to make, but it feels like, at least for in the memorable history, that's the case. We have seen definitely re-releases of other games with slight changes but not really major improvements. And autosaves and skippable dialogue is is kind of still a base, very basic improvements.
How about some feline fun?
Time to break some faces.
You want a hunt? Be my guest. That beast is my savior.
A new brand of justice.
This one's just playing a ton of cards here. Gamma Sutra has a job listing here for Legends of Learning. They're looking for a senior systems designer. Never heard of this company. It's in Baltimore, Maryland. It's 100% remote. 150,000 a year. Definitely asking a decent amount of money.
Astral Hauser!
Right.
The forest abandoned me.
Right, so let's evolve
I
this.
won't let you get away.
I walk my own path. Just don't.
Hit this one. We can do 4-8 here, or we can do here.
I'll strike true!
I think you kill that one
That's
first.
how the catnip crumbles.
Hit this one. Hit that one. Still don't think that saves you though. The Rockstar co-founder, Dan Houser, might have opened a new development studio according to Gamma Sutra. I don't think Dan Houser has been involved with Rockstar. Yeah, he left in February of 2020 after 2 decades, and clearly he wasn't done making video games. Speaking of not done making video game like content, the 3 Giant Bomb East employees that left Giant Bomb have with their, what is it called, Nextlander YouTube channel, that they've been making a lot of like longer play, quick look type streams and things, and actually covering video games. So it's either a case, in my humble guesstimate, it's either a case that they are desperately making content right now that they don't want to make later, which would be a little weird, but possible.
Thus, the world ends.
Okay. 5 will not kill this. So what I need to do is hit this
My little trespasser.
to do this,
What an
to hit this,
I need more cuddles.
and I might as well just end the turn here and lose. Yeah, so it's either a case that they're desperately making new content to get more subscribers or more viewers, and that they didn't want to make content on Giant Bomb and they stopped. Or it's just a matter of pay, as far as I can tell. What it feels like now, looking back, is that Giant Bomb, whoever really is in charge of Giant Bomb, may very well have laid off 3 of the higher, probably overpaid employees who weren't doing any work at Giant Bomb for Giant Bomb East, or were doing very little work, let's be honest there. It wasn't 0, but it was very little work, and they definitely weren't covering games
Time for me to prove myself.
in a video format that was being shown at least to free people. Maybe they were doing written articles, and maybe that was the thing, is that they wanted them to go back to writing articles, and they wanted to do more video things.
Got me feeling hungry.
But it could very well have just been a pay thing. That by getting rid of the Giant Bomb East people and the hassle of having people live in New York and having an office in New York and just the immense amount of extra work that was creating and how it was kind of cannibalizing the Giant Bomb Bombcast. As far as there just was not really 2 weeks worth of content to talk about on 2 separate bombcasts. Honestly, it may very well have been a case that when the Giant Bomb East people went over to the Giant Bomb East side is because they secretly did not want to talk to the Giant Bomb cast people, and that there was a separation, more of a strategic, mature separation of people just being put in their own corner for what would have been years. And the concept of getting back together was just not something that they wanted to do.
I think you owe me an apology.
No one gets past me.
Are you worth your weight in
But I suspect it was just money, because now they're having freelancers do different things on Giant Bomb. Although they are kind of different things too. It's definitely not just the same old.
My blade is autumn.
Like, it very well may be that one of those freelancers was just on the blacklist of the Giant Bomb East people's concept, and they left because they wanted to blacklist people. Although there was also definitely some people that all of a sudden showed up at Nextlanders that had not been at Giant Bomb. So I think maybe they both have blacklists as far as people they prefer not to work with. Although, honestly, it's kind of all just pointless speculation and pointless drama, because like none of them, neither Giant Bomb as it is right now or Nextlander is really adding anything to the conversation.
Really the right way?
At all. Like, they're still not really sources for video game news that I want to follow, and I'm still definitely trying to move towards not following any
I think you owe me an apology.
like mainstream video game journalists as news sources anymore. Like, that era should be dead and buried at this level.
Are you worth your weight in gold?
There we go. Do I want to evolve this? I don't think so. Moving on. Video Games Chronicle says Nintendo has revived its developer interview series. The first interview focuses on Game Builder Garage, which, yeah. The interview series as like pre-recorded videos, which I assume that's what they are, would definitely be helpful and informative to aspiring young programmers out there. It also would be helpful, certainly, to
It won't be long now. I'm so sparkly.
to like other game developers out in the process. It also gives them something to do, certainly in the middle of still a major pandemic.
Give me that.
Let's see. Shield Guardian and Knight. So I either play this and get this bonus, or just wait till they wait till they concede. That works too. So we should get another chest. And also Battle Pass is going up, so every time there's a new expansion, it makes it seem like you're getting more rewards than you really are when these new expansions come out. Hmm. One of the things I'm reading the
To arms! There's a battle
GitHub
underway!
listing of OpenZFS, which is now the new merge thing, version 2.1.0. One of the things while I was building my server and that I did consider is like I don't have anything other than just a like prosumer style gaming power supply on it. It's not a redundant power supply with two power supplies that either load balance or switch over. There's definitely room to put something like that in, but those are fairly expensive. But on the back plane, which is the connector for the hot swap bays of hard drives, you could plug in the connectors between a vertical or horizontal orientation. The power itself is all coming from one source, but the connection could be through multiple sources, because what I'm going to have to do, because nobody's going to have the 20 SATA connectors that it needs, like not normally built into a motherboard. Motherboard I have has one controller that gives me 6 SATA controllers, and then 4 more, so that's 10 if I used all the onboard motherboard. But I am going to have to put in either a PCI Express X1 or X4 RAID controller, and I'm going to have to put in 3 of them, because as far as I can tell, they only come in 6-port and 4-port configurations. And I'm not actually getting RAID controllers. That's the wrong word I used. I'm just getting hard drive interfaces, controller cards, but not RAID array controller cards, because I'm not looking to make a hardware RAID with OpenZFS. That's not how OpenZFS works. That's more expensive, and frankly, I don't think it's particularly better than using software RAID, because of the high possibility of the hardware RAID controller eventually breaking, and then you just losing the RAID there. Now, that's where it comes down to the idea of potentially doing a horizontal versus a vertical connection, because having effectively 4 different pipes and then separating the traffic between one of each of the 4 lanes in that highway would give you a probably significant and noticeable speed update, as you would be accessing hard drives by accessing different pipelines faster. But the problem there is you're significantly reducing or increasing the catastrophe when it happens, not if it happens, of a RAID, not RAID controller, a hard drive controller card going bad. Because if you went in the vertical orientation and one of your 4 controller card goes bad, you won't be able to access any of the hard drives at all. Everything will mess up. Like you'll be breaking and potentially corrupting not 1 but 5 or 6 different hard drives in that one failure. Whereas the odds are probably a little bit lower if you go in the horizontal fashion that you would be able to corrupt all 6 hard drives in that array at once. And before distributed RAID arrays were introduced, certainly the idea would have been to have a group of 6 in one RAID Z3 arrange in a horizontal connection way, and then another group of 6 in the next horizontal RAID array, and then these different RAID arrays would be seamlessly interconnected in the background.
The uncharted desert awaits.
But of course, you're sacrificing
What do we
speed
have here?
in that scenario
I won!
for safety, and I think I'm definitely going to go horizontal. Actually, I've already hooked up the cord, so at least temporarily I'm going to go horizontal. Suppose there is a thought to rethink that with the distributed RAID arrays, but I don't know. I think you still want to go horizontal. There's a small chance that the backplane itself might short out, or have problems, and then you'd still want that horizontal. And it's not like my RAID array is set up, or my hard drives are like SSDs or anything, so it's never going to be a super fast experience anyways compared to
The uncharted desert
what
awaits.
it could be.
March on!
I'm ready for more. What do we have
So
here?
yeah, I think
What do we have here?
probably for 75% of
Sunlight.
anyone who is trying to make a RAID array should connect the connectors in a horizontal orientation, so that the 4 connectors on one backplane, and then the first 2 connectors on the next backplane are all on one RAID array, compared to a vertical orientation where it would be the first connector in all 5 of the backplanes. Sorry. I'm still trying to wrap my head around just how many hot drive bays there are. And they definitely at this moment are going to be empty. This is a room for expansion over the course of many years concept.
One step closer to victory. Relinquish control.
Let's see if this works. Well, had that done 10 damage twice to him,
Enemy or no?
I would have won.
Did good.
There is definitely a falling behind. It'll probably be months before there's an easy, just open media vault image that uses ZFS, OpenZFS 2.1. That would be what I'd probably recommend to most people who are looking to make a in-home backup server, is something like that, and not try to go as home lab crazy and experimental as I tend to go. Particularly if you're just looking for a backup and you're not looking for any other like web servers or anything else. Honestly, I would prefer to be able to install something like
Too slow.
Open Media Vault and just be done with it. If it could do everything I wanted it to do, but it doesn't at the moment do everything I wanted to do. Of course, why am I talking about computer stuff when this is a video game stream? I don't know. That's just what I do with my life. Whether or not it's a waste or not, I'll leave to other people to form their own opinions on.
Got me feeling hungry.
Too slow.
I definitely was thinking about that. That concept of there's a lot of stuff I've done in my life, and this is probably true for everyone, that They were very much just educational experiences, and you just chalked them up to educational experiences. If you learned something, if you had fun with it, what more can you really ask for in a lot of scenarios?
Too slow. I like. Give me that.
But from an outward perspective, you could also take that as that there was a lot of scenarios in my life where I just kind of wasted time, spent a lot of money. There's a lot of things I have bought and come to realize 5 years later, 2 years later, even 6 months later, that I didn't really need, didn't really want. Sometimes I think, me personally, I just need to have something in my hand to know if it's actually going to be useful or not. Things feel like they could be integrated into your daily lifestyle, and then they just don't. I have a desk that I've had for probably, I'd say probably 10 years plus. It's a very nice desk, but I just don't sit at desks, and I never have had room for it. It's just way too big, and it's been in spare bedrooms its entire life. And certainly when I first got it, I thought, oh, this will help keep me organized. This will help me be more efficient, and no, none of that happened. Organization is a hard thing to have and maintain, for sure.
This town eats good folk for breakfast. This town eats good folk for breakfast.
Let's speed things up. March on!
So when I evolve
I ain't
this,
dead yet.
it doesn't do anything.
What do we have here?
Just finish the job.
Okay.
Hands up.
Are we killing this one?
You crusty horseshoe. Hands up.
I think we are.
Farewell.
Too slow.
Moving on, back to video game news. Team 17 has bought the educational app developer Story Toys for an initial $26.5 million. Which, okay, that sounds interesting. Let's see. Xbox says Halo Infinite will not make or break the franchise. I think that's fairly true. Microsoft has basically infinite money. Housemarque says it will now make even bigger games now that it's part of PlayStation, which size is, I'm not sure the real issue with Returnal. I don't think anybody was really complaining that Returnal was too short. I think they were complaining it was too hard. Did they make Returnal too hard because it was super short? Maybe. That would be the first time in a long time of us ever seeing a game like that. They certainly used to do that in the NES era games. And make incredibly short games impossible, or nearly impossible to defeat, to make them last longer. See, Video Games Chronicle says Microsoft's Flight Simulator's next update will greatly improve performance. Nintendo's presidents on the latest Switch Pro reports we're constantly developing hardware. Like, they really just seem like they are not going to announce anything. Nintendo has also denied knowledge of any forced labor at the factories it uses. Quote, we've never received any reports on forced labor in our supply chain. Which I am fairly certain Nintendo does use Foxconn Chinese factories, and I think you can fairly certain assume that that the Foxconn facilities somewhere are using forced labor, or at least heavily coerced labor, Those stories have been kind of drowned out lately by either good government covering it up, that information, or the pandemic in general, or Foxconn just being better at covering it up. There is probably, if I was just to assume, forced labor going on in a lot of places in China. Which I don't know where that ends up ending. Like, under like communist control of a lot of countries, there was a lot of attempts at forced labor to build military weapons of war type elements, but I don't know if there's been an example I can really think of where forced labor has been recently used to try and have an economic advantage, which is really what one would assume China is trying to do, is trying to have as much economic advantage as possible to gain as much influence as possible. I suppose the UK, in its employment history, probably had a decent amount of forced or coerced labor to bring the United Kingdom into power, and I think it's fairly obvious to anyone who thinks about it that the United States history has hundreds of years going up to even now in its prison systems of slavery and forced labor.
All I need's an opening and you're toast.
So yeah,
The hunt has only begun.
I guess the historical examples there
One helping of this and it's
say
99
that
for you.
the forced labor that exists in China probably will lead to China having economic advantage.
I'll live again.
And although I can jokingly say I still suspect that the Yakuza might be directly controlling Nintendo, instead of having just influenced them at the very beginning of their like, what is it, 400-year history, I doubt Nintendo is any worse of a perpetuator of forced labor than anyone else. They are just obviously like many electronics companies shopping out a lot of the actual assembly and creation of electronics to China. And some of that work eventually was getting shopped out to the Philippines and Taiwan and other Asian countries, but unless we can find new poor countries with lots of people to exploit, or do a lot better job quicker about automating that kind of work, we are going to run into a scenario where we're going to eventually run out of exploitable nations.
Is that how you treat a lady?
Everyone needs an afterlife
And
plan.
at some point, it may just be easier to have factories directly in Japan making Nintendo products. And it may just be easier to have factories directly in America making American electronics. There is a scenario where America could become so incredibly lax in its rules and regulations that
Welcome back.
it does become the go-to location for an exploitable labor class and cheap manufacturing. But that would be a scenario where basically every other country in the world rose above the prominence of the United States. Moving on back to video games. Nintendo says it's still considering a possible future for mini consoles. The next one, since they did a mini NES and mini N64, unless they're going to try and get a new collection of mini NES games or an expanded version that has more mini NES games or mini Super NES games, the next thing they have to do is a Nintendo 64. And I think that's a little bit harder to do, but it works fairly well with the RetroPie stuff, because Nintendo 64 games don't run particularly well, or don't run at all on RetroPie, Raspberry Pi, even 4s. So if Nintendo can make something that runs Nintendo 64 games better than the Raspberry Pi, then I could see a lot of people with a RetroPie build that goes up to systems before the Nintendo 64. Then they just spend the $100 or so to get a mini Nintendo 64. Same is true for GameCube, same is true for Wii. These things can be emulated on PC, but it would be a major expense difference to, say, pay $100 to get a mini GameCube and a mini like Wii versus building a $1,000 computer and going through the complicated process of installing the emulators that there. So yeah, if they were wise, they would do that. If they were wise, they would make sure that there's always a mini Nintendo 64 and mini Super NES available on storage shelves.
Looks like I won.
It should be something like a board game that maybe is 10 times as expensive as a $10 board game in a toy aisle, but it should be something there that could always, at the very least, be something that they sell when there are shortages of Nintendo Switches, which there aren't really shortages for Nintendo Switches, but you can certainly convince a parent to spend $100 on a console more than $250, $300 on a Switch.
My quarry won't escape that easy.
Activate. Enhance.
There is also
Fire.
an issue I think Nintendo wants to address at some point, or should address at some point. I don't know if they want to address it. I think they actually don't. Where the Nintendo fanboys are buying Switches at the premium day one, and then they're getting upgraded versions of the Switch or the Switch Lites, and then they're handing down to a secondary market their original Switches. So Nintendo, because of that scenario, never really has to lower the price, because the fanboys will always pay the premium price, and Nintendo is still benefiting of having a fairly decent growing market because of the hand-me-down elements. Where ideally, Nintendo, I think, should try and market to a more wider audience and not rely on the fanboys who can be very flippant and easily upset, and get the Switch down to $200 and get their games down to $50 instead of $60, so that they always look cheaper than the other games for Xbox and PlayStation. And the Switch should still identify itself as the only place to play Mario, and the only place that is slightly more focused on kids' games. But they should also try to be a little bit more selective. There's a lot of problems as the idea of a Switch being a kid console, just in the fact that you've got these Joy-Cons that are easily thrown and broken. You've got a Switch that's easily thrown and broken. You have a screen that's easily scratched. You've got just a long laundry list of things that can go wrong if you're not careful.
It looks like I'm up.
We can finally be reunited.
Let's go ahead and just evolve this
The
one.
hunt has only begun.
I've got all the magic I need. Is that how you treat a lady? Ouchie!
The uncharted desert awaits.
That. Moving on, Video Game Chronicle has a new Spider-Man Miles Morales PS5 patch, improves the quality of its ray tracing. The Epic Games Store next free titles have been announced. There will be Bridge Constructor, The Walking Dead, and Ironcast, which will replace the Spectrum Retreat. Which that was a game I wanted to cover, but I'm not gonna play it on Epic. Let's see, the latest Assassin's Creed Valhalla update will address crashes and UI issues, which, wow, that is kind of shocking that they're at this point having crashes and UI issues.
Other dimensions beckon.
What do we have here?
Just as well.
You would have expected Assassin's Creed Valhalla to have already been fairly bug-free. And yeah, starting on Monday, we shouldn't have this issue with Video Games Chronicle not being cleaned up. I just am not reloading the pages. Let's see. Video Games Chronicle says Ghost of Tsushima Director's Cut includes a new story set on Iki Island. Game will be released for the PS5 and PS4 on August 20th. Did Ghost of Tsushima never come out on any other console? Maybe it didn't. EA Play Live will last for 40 minutes and focus on games coming out soon. See, Battlefield 2042, Apex Legends, Lost in Random, and a couple other games. There's a kind of laundry list of EA games that won't be announced, however, around that too. Let's see how this goes. That's 4. Which means I pretty much have to do this. And this will die and this will die, so we should just do this one, this one, and this one. Hit that one. And then we should just end the turn there. They came out and said Mass Effect 4 and Dragon Age 4 won't be shown at EA Play Live. Xbox has reportedly moved closer to signing a new Hideo Kojima game. What this originally came out to be was a letter of intent, though. So this is like a letter of intent as far as what I've heard, that he's going to use some of Microsoft's technology to make a game, not particularly, and I imagine a lot of that is just the Azure server type technology. It doesn't mean that the game is going to be exclusive to Xbox or Xbox and PC. It doesn't mean anything really at all, because I think there's fairly easy ways to back out if Kojima doesn't ever actually make any progress on the development of the game, or just doesn't want to continue with the development of the game. The last thing you would want to do is lock some auteur like Kojima into working on something that they didn't want to work on, which is exactly what Konami, I think, was doing, and exactly what I think he did not like.
Just as well.
See.
let you get away.
So sparkly. Yeah.
So go ahead and kill that.
What is extinction of the self?
Video Games Chronicle says Dead Space 4 is reportedly a full remake inspired by the recent Resident Evil games and how they were able to come back and show that single player horror games sell, which is, I think, very much kind of a rudderless change of direction by EA, which shows EA really didn't know what they're doing and was fairly incompetent to end making Dead Space games anyways. Apparently at the end of some DLC of Dead Space 3, they literally killed all the life in the universe in that world, which, yeah, at that point you pretty much have to you do have to effectively reboot the whole game series. You can't. Either you do that or you admit that everything that had happened in the original series was just all a dream or something, a delusion of Isaac. Which I don't know if that's the best way to handle something like that. If this guy can evolve or take any more damage, I've lost.
Virtue, avarice,
Or if he can play something like that, I've
Nice
lost.
marksmanship.
Today is going to be a fairly easy day as far as all I have to do is try to get victories and then act slightly bummed out when I don't get victories. Let's see. Video Games Chronicle says Star Wars The Old Republic is getting a new expansion this year, which this is the 10th anniversary of the MMO, so not to be confused with like Battlefront or any of the other mini Star Wars games that have happened. I haven't had a single like frame network drop since I reset my whole router settings and finally figured out how to fix it, or at least get it working. Also, DNS crypt seems to be mostly working. Like, I haven't had another problem with it since that first initial problem, which often just applying settings on the router seems to create that initial problem of connectivity. So I think I've figured it out that there's just a heavy limitation on how you can set up quality of service. Everything works fine enough, as good as it's gonna work.
There's a battle underway.
So I'm not giving any like priority to Shadowverse, and so that there is an occasional hiccup in the connections because of that, or I'm not giving any priority to any of my mobile phone games where there's an occasional hiccup there, but I think that's the best you're gonna get. Really?
Let's speed things up. Too slow.
Moving on to Gamma Sutra news, mobile studio Dream Games, and that's 155 million in funding at a 1 billion valuation. Yep. Developers expressed their ire with PlayStation's promotional policies. We talked about this before, but apparently they put out some charts or things that, or graphs or something, that kind of directly pointed out that it seems like PlayStation the listings of PlayStation games make less money than putting them on Switch or Steam. I think you make more money on Steam, but maybe you don't. There's that book Lies, 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 and Statistics, or something like that is the name of the book. And while Steam, there is, I think, a decent argument to say, while Steam may have a very high number of player base, a significant amount of those player bases on Steam in particular could be just bots or free-to-play only gamers. So the number of unit sales on Steam may be lower than I would like it to be.
Are you ready for true combat, pup?
Okay,
No one
so
gets
if I
past
do
me.
this,
Just stand there.
then that lets me do that. So then if I
Too
did
slow.
this
Too slow.
Stand there.
and this, then that just pumps that guy up amazingly high. So yeah, he works really well. Gamasutra says, Wildlife has tapped the former Marvel Strike Force director to lead a new studio called Foxbear Games. Humble Bundle sliders are here to stay, but now are mandatory cuts for Humble, which at a certain point, if you at a certain level, if you're not able to choose all of it to go to charity and some of it has to go to Humble Bundle, that's a different scenario. That's different from what we were being offered and given before this point, and I don't know if that's acceptable to a lot of people, or if people will be fine with it. Is there any way I could win here? No, because I can like evolve and attack this, but like, that's about it. It's just like evolve here.
I'll save you all.
Probably should have evolved that one. Yeah, I still think I'm fairly done with Humble Bundle. They haven't been giving good offerings as far as their bundles in a long time, and this kind of move towards corporate greed is only the beginning, I'm sure, for the new owners of Humble Bundle. Like, we kind of saw that this was likely what was going to happen at as soon as they were bought out by a new company. Right, well, if I play this, I can't play that, so you have to basically play this.
Go with the wind.
And then basically have to play this.
Let's speed things up.
But actually, I probably
One
could have
step closer to victory.
evolved this
Second
one,
wind got to roam
attacked
this
here,
Finish the job.
then that would have done that first. It would
Too
have bumped
slow.
up this guy, not
No one
this
gets
needed.
past me.
Damage critical.
Eject.
See, Gamasutra has an article. Microsoft is hiring a senior software engineer performance tooling in Redmond, Washington. Gamasutra has an article here. Finding hope in the maniacally absurdity of the game band's Blazeball. Which, what is this game? Looks like it's a strategy game of some point. It looks very boring. Feels like sponsored content. Mobile Studio Dream Games, and we already talked about that one. An Xbox engineer used gift cards to fuel a $10 million fraud spree. I don't know how you could do this for $10 million.
General, we
I don't know how you move fast enough. I don't know how you move fast enough to spend $10 million. I don't know how you don't get caught doing this at potentially thousands of dollars. And it seems like this is a Ukrainian person, which I don't know if that plays any role to the story or not, but they are, yeah, a Ukrainian immigrant now facing 10 years in prison.
To arms! There's a battle underway!
It might,
Prepare for defeat.
he would sell codes on platforms like Paxful, never heard of it, exchanging thousands of codes for cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin. I suppose that's how you get up to 10 million. Well, I guess gift card fraud is a big business, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's fairly common business and acceptable way of doing business in Eastern Bloc countries like Ukraine, when you don't have a lot of opportunity for legitimate work. But at the end of the day, somebody was going after him and somebody caught him, so it's hardly like this was a successful heist.
Like new.
And anytime you hear a story like this, it just highlights that once you get in, it's incredibly difficult to get out of a life of crime and just say, this is enough. I've made my $1 million, my $2 million, my $5 million. Like, that's more than enough money to set a Ukrainian immigrant up for life. And you have to assume he was trying to funnel that money to somebody else, or like that's just way too much money for no good reason to go that high. And I guess though, the people who are bold enough, I won't say stupid, but just bold enough to do something like that probably do lack that fear that would tell them subconsciously to stop at a certain point. Next, we have a Gamma Sutra article. A company called Dropfake, which is a terrible name, nets $9 million to create multiplayer social games that move people. Singularity 6 has raised $30 million to develop its community MMO Palia, which I've never heard of Singularity 6 or Palia. PlayStation has acquired the Dutch technical development studio Nix's Software. Yeah, PlayStation acquired like 2 companies in a row when they hadn't really acquired anybody in quite a while. Fast Travel Games secures $4 million to develop more VR projects. Blaster Master 03 has a gameplay trailer according to Kimetsu. Let's keep on playing. Guess we want this. And guess you want this. And then you can do this.
Oh, waffle cakes.
Today
And then
we
do that.
got romance.
Then hit that. Let's see, Yokai Watch 8th anniversary live stream set for July 9th. I didn't realize Yokai Watch had been out that long. Still really has not succeeded well outside of Japan. Furaki 4 Gifu Station to Tokuyama Dam gameplay. This is that game where it's just like driving simulator in Japan. Like, really doesn't make any sense as a game.
Just like new.
A Indie Live Expo 2021 Winter is set for November 6th, which, yep, or you may get a few announcements there. A multiplayer action game called Project Relic has been announced for PlayStation, Xbox, and PC. This is from Project Cloud Games, a South Korean company. Let's see what that looks like. We really haven't had a lot of opportunity in the past week or so to even watch it trailers. Like, you'd think with E3 happening, there might be a little bit more trailers to have watched, but if anything, it seems like E3 just sucked all of the oxygen out of the room for trailer viewing.
The uncharted desert awaits. The uncharted desert awaits. What do we have here?
Go ahead and hit that
I
one.
could use a shoulder to cry on.
Yeah, Project Golf didn't look particularly interesting. Streets of Rage 4 DLC Mr. X Nightmare launches July 15th. Ayo the Clown launches July 28th. We have a trailer here. Let's see what kind of game this is. Peggy 3 game. The problem with clowns is that I don't know if kids ever liked clowns, and I think they really should just like disappear from the cultural zeitgeist, as it were. It does look like a decent platformer, although if it's rated so for little kids, it's probably going to be a fairly easy platformer, but that may not be a big problem for me. I may very well enjoy just playing a kid-focused platformer that's not a super difficult precision platformer experience. Definitely looks cutesy. Although, yeah, still not sure about clowns. I want this one. I think. And then this
The
one.
uncharted desert awaits.
And then I want to evolve this one.
March on!
I'm ready for more. What do we have here?
So we can attack that one. Let's see. Gametsu has Tales of Arise battle system and characters developer diary. If you're interested in that. A game called Blightbound launches July 27th on the PS4, Xbox One, and PC. Multiplayer dungeon crawler exits early access. They have a bit of a trailer. Let's check this. I kind of like the art style, but I'm not sure I'd play anything that was such a multiplayer game, and feels like it's fairly dark, and it like you'd be fighting fairly large characters over and over again, and kind of a grindy experience. A Barbarian Testament of the Primordials is coming to PS4, Xbox One on July 15th. It's currently available on Switch and PC. Interesting, came out in October 2020. Let's see what it looks like. Kind of a pixely hack and slash game. Maybe Metroidvania experience too. Doesn't look terrible, but it also kind of looks like a game I could have easily skipped. Looks a little dark screenshot syndrome. Here's it on Steam, and yeah, it totally passed my attention. Very possibly because it has only like 108 reviews in total, and was early access or something, or I just missed it. Like, that's also a case. I very much wouldn't be surprised if I just totally missed it. It does have like a dark screenshot syndrome with a lot of its screenshots if they were to load. Still haven't figured out a way to fix that issue.
I need more fear, more terror.
Got a job to do.
Okay.
On your right. Nope, your left.
This one, and this one, and that one.
Loyalty is ironclad.
Then we'll evolve here.
One step closer to victory. Harder armor, Steel
And then we'll
yourself.
hit this one.
Loyalty is
And hit that one. And hit this. Hit this. That took a little too long.
Not enough business.
Let's see. Dying Light 2 Stay Human Monsters gameplay trailer,
Their salt.
which that might be slightly interesting to see what the new monsters are. Dying Light 2, although frankly I still have yet to play Dying Light 1, so yeah, I really need to jump over to that concept. It's definitely look like very big zombies compared to like the Left 4 Dead zombies or the Dead Island zombies. Yeah, it seems like more individual dangerous zombies versus large groups of zombies, which there's, yeah, I think for video games in general, wow, they're seemingly affected by the light too. You probably are better off stronger zombies than giant hordes of zombies. I have like 49 minutes until another mission starts, and so at this point there's literally all I'm doing is trying to get victories, which fine, like we'll leave it at that. As soon as we burn through the news, we can call it an early Friday, and I can start my weekend, I guess, earlier. See, that looked like a golden chest.
There's a battle underway.
For smartphone and Switch, B Project Ryushi Fantasia has been delayed to September 30th in Japan, no longer due out on September 9th. This definitely looks like it's a collection of guys in a it's a boys virtual idol visual novel, which I would assume you would call this an otome game, but maybe it'd be kind of interesting if Japan started just straight up saying, oh no, actually this isn't for young maidens, this is straight up for dudes who are into dudes, which they do certainly make yaoi games, but very rarely. They very often try to pretend like there is no homosexual or LGBTQ plus community in Japan at all, and that this is, and they try to hide it.
Let's speed things up. Too slow.
But I think with the rapidly aging and dying older generations in Japan, we may start to see some massive change. Which, honestly, Japan probably should stand out as a more open and accepting country, just to not run into rough comparisons for the far more conservative countries around them. I would say probably South Korea is fairly open and accepting too, but yeah. Oddly, Australia is kind of conservative. At least their politicians are heavily conservative, and certainly China is heavily conservative. Yeah, I just went in there. Plenty of other countries in that area.
Uncharted desert awaits.
Let's see. Moving on for the PS4 and Switch, Sense Memories or Sin CE Memories Off the Starry Sky has been delayed to September 16th in Japan. Now has an opening movie. It seems to be a collection of anime girls, so it is a visual novel. Bunch of characters. they seem to all be kind of the same on the face of it. Like they all seem to have kind of the same art style with slightly different hairstyles and colors. They're not wildly different, so it's probably a fairly down-to-earth story compared to a wild story set in a fantasy realm or sci-fi realm. The Famitsu sales from the 21st to the 27th have been updated. Let's see, we've got a whole bunch of new in the top 10. A lot of people bought Mario Golf Super Rush, even though I've heard it's not that good. Lots of people bought Samurai Warriors, which I thought more people would probably boycott that. More people bought it on the PS4 than the Nintendo Switch also. Scarlet Nexus came out to little fanfare, but in Japan for the PS4 it sold well. Legend of Nayuta Boundless Trails came out for the PS4. Scarlet Nexus on the PS5 broke the top 10 at 11,000 sales. The amount of sales numbers in themselves are fairly low this week. Caligula Effect 2 for the Switch came out in 10th spot. Caligula Effect 2 for the PS4 came out in 13th spot. Wicked King and Noble Hero came out for the Switch in the 19th spot. Kingakimi 4S came out in the 23rd spot. Don't even know what that is. Rust for the PS4 came out in the 24th spot. And then Wicked King and Noble Hero for the PS4 came out in the 29th spot. Hardware wise, the Switch and Switch Lite selling fairly high. PlayStation 5 fairly well, but not great. Even the Xbox Series X here, this number here is amazingly high though. This is a 10-fold improvement on what you usually get in Japan. Usually you're seeing 200 units, maybe 20 units sold for Xbox. And the Xbox Series X here has beaten the PlayStation 4, which that is a major shift. The new 2DS is still a thing too.
Already a proper lady, you know.
This is lucky.
Is that how you treat a lady?
Time to retreat.
But yeah, those sales numbers are shockingly high. Of course, you can see the lifetime here for the Xbox Series X is 41,000, where the PlayStation 5 is 718,000. So it's still got a long way to build if it's going to beat or even actually compete in Japan with the PlayStation 5.
You need backup, Bear? No way!
But
The time for
and you can compare the same lifetime sales for the digital edition to the Series S, which is about the same comparison.
Rat escape!
And even if you are going to make these comparisons, you have to pretty much ignore the lifetime sales of the PlayStation 4 of 7 million, because you're just not going to be able to beat that with the Xbox Series X's. Okay. Hit this.
You something.
Hit this.
The uncharted desert awaits.
Evolve this.
on.
I'm ready for more. What do we have
Take
here?
that.
The blade rights never back down.
Just gonna lose. Let's see. Cotton Guardian Force Saturn tribute debut trailer. Cotton was the side-scrolling shooter game.
Damn. Enemy or no.
Looks like there's 3 games being bundled. I suppose there's probably some relevancy to this, which would make an argument that if it comes to the West, which is not certain, that it should be something I should consider looking at. It certainly would give me a bit of an excuse to try a side-scrolling shooter. Let's see, for the Switch, Susanoo Japanese Mythology RPG has been delayed to July 29th. I think we had already talked about that. Now we're going to start covering some of the games on Steam, but not all of them. Here we have Orb in the Stars, which looks like a marble rolling game.
I bring unto you serenity.
There's kind of not enough visual polish here. Let's see, $10.79, English and French. Against my better judgment, I think I'll give this a follow, but I'm being very generous. Here we have something called It's Summer. I think we had already looked at this, that this was like a horror game, and dismissed it as being kind of an asset flip horror game. $9.99, English and Russian. I think we kind of dismissed it in particular because it would have been probably so focused on the Russian language I wouldn't have been able to really understand it. We have Compact O Idle Game for $2.99, English only. Here we have one called Night Slave, The Dark Valley of Depravity. And I will quickly zoom over there. It's not actually tagged as having any nudity or sexual. Nope, it is tagged as having nudity. It also is using the Rim and Ray characters from an anime, or characters that look like the Rim and Ray. But the main character seems to fight always in a bikini with very perky nipples. And otherwise, though, it seems like it is just an RPG game trying to hide the fact that it is an RPG game. It is $11.99, English, Japanese, and Chinese. Check it out if you're interested, but don't come blaming me when you realize how bad it really is. Right, so we need to fuse this one. And then do this.
Thy little canary.
Next we have a game on Steam called Grandmother's Tale, which looks like it's some kind of platformer set in the events of World War II. Why are these not loaded? I did have to reboot, reload, restart Chrome because of I just sat around and not updated it at any point for nearly a week. So maybe that affected it. Grandmother's Tale is a demo. It's English and Russian. What's funny here is it's 15 listed on July 1st as $15.99, and now it's not available for purchase. And it doesn't look like a bad game, really. It honestly looks like somebody actually put some effort here. I'm gonna put it on the follow list, but it's very weird to potentially have a game listed on July 1st and then delisted. Yeah, we have another World War II game for $1.74 and another World War II game for $2.79. Maybe that their idea was they typed in the wrong price. It was supposed to be $1.59. That might be the case.
Truth and lies.
Just gonna end the turn here. Let's see. Next, we have a game on Steam called Super Tech Pack, which, yeah, it just seems like recreations of old-looking games or games that look very old. $4.99 English only. Nothing really of interest there. Here we have one that's all in Asian characters. That is almost certainly just a Chinese mobile game being ported. Free to play, Chinese only. Here we have Wave War 1. Which I don't know if there's enough of a game here. It kind of feels like it might be a Plants vs. Zombies type side-scrolling tower defense game. $8.99 English full audio. The idea of trying to turn wave-based tower defense into the idea of trench warfare isn't a terrible thought. So I'm gonna give it a follow list just to see how that plays out.
100% string and 0% fluff.
Begin.
Okay. Just needed to play cards.
Everything was a lie.
A spin and a twirl and up. There's our puppy
There
to
we go. So yeah, I think that worked out well. Here we have a game at the behest of the Pike, Time to Run, which looks like nothing. It's early access, $1.19. Allegedly a bunch of language support. Here we have Prison Tycoon under new management, published by Ziggurat, which I suppose Prison Tycoon was owned by Team 17, and so this is the new release of it, and the graphics definitely look very different, and they definitely are trying to make it stand out. Like, yeah, we have changed things. Early access, English, Spain, Spanish. Now, I'm gonna put this on the follow list, but in all honesty, I'm not sure I want to play Prison Tycoon in the old version or the new version, because frankly I think the whole concept is a little distasteful to glorify running a prison or a prison system. I didn't realize that fusing here would summon a tentacle. So this card has this whole concept that protects it. I didn't realize it had. Here we have a game called The Capo Delivers, which is tagged as a time management game. Yeah, it seems like it's some kind of says it's a shopping game. That seems weird.
Smiles are the best medicine.
How this really
We're done
plays.
for.
It's basically just a timed
It's
hidden
an
object
expensive business.
game. Just click on things and find. Seems like it has an odd mob connection for what looks like a timed hidden object game. $8.49. I'm gonna put this on the follow list just to see if there's something about this I don't understand, but I suspect there really isn't.
Hostile life form detected.
This. Then we fuse with this. Why can I not fuse again? I could summon an assault tentacle.
Terminating hostile life form.
Feel free to call on me again.
Verifying access.
I don't know if there's a reason to summon an assault tentacle though. Honestly, I could have just probably played this. That would have worked too. Next we have a game on Steam here called The Fermi Paradox, which looks like it's very text-based. As kind of a strategy
Down.
experience. Early access, 1709. This is one of those games that might actually be fairly decent, but it's just so incredibly text-based that I just wouldn't want to play it. So I'm gonna have to say no to that. Here we have Overlord RPG Online Battle, which doesn't look like anything really. And I wouldn't want to play an online game. $13.99. English only. And then we'll play this. And this. Let's get rid of that. And that.
This is the least I can do.
And then in the turn. Next we have a game on Steam called Cafe International, which I don't know if this is a, apparently this is some kind of board game where you place cards. They're saying it's a legendary board game of the year, 1989. There might be something here. The price is definitely right because it's $9.99. It doesn't have any DLC. It supports a decent amount of languages. It doesn't seem like it's trying to be too incredibly complicated in converting itself into a digital version of a board game. It also doesn't seem like it's trying to be too incredibly simple. So yeah, that I think deserves a follow.
Enough with these feeble-minded invalids.
Dissonance.
Sleep.
Limiters removed. Battle mode activated.
I've been spotted.
Battle mode activated.
Today was a right good day.
I am reborn. Know my fury.
Thought one of these would deal. It does at the start of your turn. It deals damage to him.
Judgment is a blessing. This idiocy is exhausting.
Let's see. Next, we have a game on Steam called Idle Wasteland, which looks like nothing. $9.99, English only. Here we have a game called Lumber Quaxis, which seems like a MS Paint, not quite that bad animation game, which doesn't seem like it really has much of a gameplay experience to it. Action adventure. Like with a game like that, you'd think you'd be just cutting down trees, but instead you're just throwing axes and trying to platform. And a little bit of cutting down trees, but barely even that. $9.99, English only. Alright, well. We'll go ahead and fuse with the repair mode. And then we'll go ahead and do this.
Quite a setback. All of you.
Go ahead and evolve here, I guess.
Harmony.
Limiters
removed. Battle mode
Attack
activated.
here and attack there.
Reborn.
Next, we have a game on Steam called Magnus Failure, which
Everything I
looks weird. Not sure if there's a game here I want to play, but it's so weird. It looks like it's an isometric, weird point-and-click adventure game. I don't think I can just easily dismiss this game. English, full audio, and Polish, $1.69. The price is cheap. I think something like this, you have to. I have to just put on the follow list and see if somebody can review it and give me a better understanding of what it is. Here we have a game called Kaisa board. I don't know what the dots actually are pronounced when you have it over an I. I think maybe it's an E sound. I don't know. This looks to me just like a chessboard though. Yeah.
Donations and I just might save you.
And I just don't see anything really happening here. Like as a chess game that makes it stand out. English and French, $8.49. This may very well just be the French word for chess. I'm gonna skip that. Here we have a game called Virtual BBs, which
the real
I
battle
guess is like a Tamagotchi clone. It's weird that you have to put in the batteries, or that they'd make an animation for that, but whatever. I guess maybe that's just the trailer. I definitely think if you were going to play a game like this, you would want it to be more full screen, and it seems very weird that there's like coins showing up on the side, and it's introducing the idea of a like premium currency around this. The game itself is free, but yeah, I just don't think there's actually a product there.
With these feeble-minded, invalid
Dissonance.
truth and lies.
Okay.
Everything was a lie.
Begin. Limiters removed. Battle mode activated.
Should have seen this
Go.
coming.
Battle mode activated. I am reborn. Know my fury.
Let's see. Next, we have a game on Steam called Boat Warfare, which doesn't look like anything of interest. $9.99, English only. And I can see the beginning of the end here. Here we have a game called The Fear Island, which is dark screenshot horror game, asset flip type experience. $5.59. Here we have a game called Distant Dials, which doesn't look like anything. They're tagging it as an interactive fiction and MMORPG for $2.99. That doesn't look interesting. Here we have something called The Last Chimera, which just looks like an RPG game of no interest. $7.64. Let's come over here and are we gonna finally be able to win, or are they? I mean, they are really pushing back here. It's just a major effort.
String and 0% fluff.
Hostile life form detected.
Oh, my beloved Nava.
A spin and a twirl and up. There's our puppy to
Getting
game.
that.
Today was a
Follow
right
that.
good day.
Sleep.
Attack that.
Okie-dokie, rinky-dinky,
Terminating
dolly
hostile
doll.
life form.
Quite the
Didn't move
setback.
fast enough.
salvation, just gratitude.
Power of mortality.
So yeah, I got wrecked there. But that's fine. At 2 hours and 15 minutes in, this can be a very short experience. I can focus on finishing moving my hardware from one computer case to the other. That's not something I like to do, frankly. Generally speaking, I put computer components in a case and then they stay in the case until they are no longer useful and then get removed to be moved nowhere else. Generally, also, I wouldn't even want to reuse cases, but these are expensive server cases, so I will definitely reuse them. But yeah, I have been living. The computer case I'm taking it out with is a case that's probably 15 to 20 years old. So it just doesn't have USB 3. It just doesn't have some of the new connections. We are on the verge of a potential new standard as far as power supply connections, giving just like 12 volt and 24 volt inputs and getting rid of the 5 volts and maybe even the 3 volts instead. And that with new power connectors, that would be a great time to rethink motherboard connectors for the front panels. If any new standard could be made past ATX, if they went to a BTX or ATX Plus or something like that that wasn't particularly 100% backward compatible, that might fix some of the connections and interface things. With Windows 11 and the introduction of more people wanting a trusted platform module 2.0, that could change how motherboards work too. So all of that combined might mean that 4 to 10 years from now we'll see very different connections and connectors inside of computer cases, and old computer cases might very much lose their value as for new computer components. But if that doesn't happen, then yeah, I have like some 15-20-year-old computer case that still could very easily have a modern amount of hardware put into it, and there would be only slight compromises on that point. I think I'm going to close IGC. What was that even called? It was Envision Gaming Community's Twitter feed. At this point, it's not really offering anything new. And I've looked at my Twitter feed and seen that there is no new news, which no big surprise there. So that's going to be it for this stream. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend to follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below. And if you want to support me further, there's a link to Patreon, or you can friend me on Steam and get me a game off my wishlist. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.